The whole world today is talking about crisis. And of course, this is a global crisis. As a matter of fact, I think that the real crisis in the world today is globalization. When a country had an economic problem, it was simply that country's problem. So you go back as far as the 1930s when the Great Depression took place, there were isolated experiences of depression around the world. If the economic conditions in one country fall apart, it didn't affect other nations. But today, because the whole world is so interdependent, when something happens in any country, it affects all the countries. People are beginning to panic. And crisis is any situation, circumstance, or condition that affects your environment and your life over which you have no control. People, for example, watching this program, many of your partners, they're losing their jobs, losing their houses, losing their 401ks. They are losing their savings. They are having to abandon their businesses. And they have no control over it. And so they feel like the whole world is imploding on them. And that's called a crisis. Well, in this book, I wanted to show that a crisis is not as negative as you think it is. The word crisis is a word that we created. We use it to describe things we cannot understand or cannot control. We invented the word crisis. In the Word of God, God never calls anything a crisis. Case in point. Let's think about Daniel and the lion's den. If you were threatened today to be thrown into a cave of wild lions, you would call that a crisis. But God was relaxed because God set up the whole thing. He actually designed the whole environment for Nebuchadnezzar and all of that to prove that you can turn lions into a sleeping mat. Another thing about a crisis, the only thing you are known for in life are the things you overcame. History is a record of crises. You only know people because of crisis. Martin Luther King Jr., we know him because of the crisis he went through. Nelson Mandela, it was the crisis. These are unknown people without crisis. Let's go back to Abraham. It was a crisis. Barren, not even have a child, that's a crisis. How about Daniel? How do we know about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? These were unknown Jewish boys, but a fiery furnace made them famous. What you're going through, God has allowed it so that you can never be forgotten in history. Crises are simply situations that either God created or God allows to prove that He is bigger than circumstances and to also make sure that history can't forget you.